Wow, unbelievable how those lines just fly, right? It's so crazy. We're going to make a new attempt now with grip to break the 400. And honestly, that's the reason why I came up with the idea to watch this video now and show it to you. Well, you might already be familiar with this sign here. And what it truly means is, this is definitely our favorite sign, my dear Christian. We know that, this sign. Yes, that's a bit sensationalist on my part, but honestly, I'm starting to get worked up. I'm really getting hot. A wonderful good day, dear friends of Fine Motorsports. I'm currently making a reaction video to this guy who drove 417 on the highway, and I have a question now. If I handed you a car that's capable of doing it, would you actually have the courage and the nerve to try and drive at a speed of 300 kilometers per hour on the highway? Yes, I really mean 300. Today, I've picked the video starring this incredible guy who took his Bugatti out for a sensational speed test. And yes, from this statement, you can already sense the subtle bias in the video. Are you allowed or not allowed to drive at 417 kilometers per hour on the highway? Maybe you already know, so let's enter it here, 417, that's a magic number. 400 kilometers per hour Bugatti. The video was uploaded. 6 months ago, it has received 14 million views so far. Someone could calculate whether he can already buy a new Bugatti Chiron from the ad revenue. I don't think so, that's not enough. But that's obviously very commendable, or rather that's really amazing. 14 million clicks on a video, absolutely insane. And here we see it already. Down there is the reaction from the lawyer. From WBS. Who's that? Christian Solmecke from WBS. He reacted and explained the background. Let's see, maybe we'll take a look at the video too. I actually haven't seen this video yet, you know? That's indeed true. I noticed it in various reactions and also read about it in the newspaper, among other sources. I've seen short clips on some online sites, but I haven't watched the full video yet. That's why this is actually a premiere. And I'd say, with a reaction video like this, you just watch the video, right? Let's do that as well, I'd say. So I'm really excited here. Okay? So look, just world class, the sound. Unbelievable. We're starting at 0 kilometers per hour. Sunrise vibe, I don't know, it was sometime in the summer. The grass is green, already slightly brownish and scorched at the top. I'd probably say it must have been sometime in the midsummer season. That means it has to be very, very early, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So let's take a look. The colleague's name is Radim Pasa. From Czech Republic, a millionaire. Seems things go well for him. Might be more than a millionaire. If you can acquire yourself a Chiron like that, then things are definitely going really well for you. Let me put it this way. So, 0 kilometers per hour, I don't know, let's say 5 a.m. He's on the shoulder, as I had mentioned before. It's more like a small bay and certainly not considered an official exit. He just wants to start from scratch, and I can understand that very, very well. We all want that. We all think it's awesome to start from zero. But on the highway, it's not that simple. I mean, there's a solid line here. Yes, we can clearly see that here. And then perhaps it's actually a highway entry, and he briefly pulled over again to the right side somewhere. Autobahn A2 in Berlin towards Hanover. 5 a.m. Well done, Radim. I'm just saying. I mean, it's been a bit of time now, so I'm not sure if you're interested or not, but honestly, I really find it quite fascinating to drive 417, and we've already tried that with grip, so for me, it's an absolute must to watch this video now, and maybe let you experience a bit of it too. So let's keep watching. "100 kilometers per hour is fast, but he's definitely not going full throttle. That's clear. He's not at full throttle. He's just letting it roll effortlessly down the road. He's simply allowing it to glide smoothly. There's no real acceleration happening here whatsoever. At 150 kilometers per hour, it's still going in fourth gear. Even at 170, it remains comfortably in fourth gear. The highway is surprisingly empty at the moment, with very few cars around. We can already see it. The highway is very empty. Someone is occasionally on the right lane and now and then on the middle lane. I haven't seen any cars driving on the left lane so far. Right lane, the Dutchman is doing 160. He's doing 180 with his Chiron. Middle lane, he should actually switch to the right now. Stay right. Applies to Bugattis too? Certainly 185. Now, at this very moment, he'll begin to mentally gear himself up to reload. I'd guess so. I mean, I've experienced such a situation many times too. If you're measuring from 100 to 200 now, you first have to look properly, you orient yourself, where are the other cars, and so on and so forth. Such an empty highway. I've experienced that before, but at night, not early in the morning, because I've really never done that. And those are already very, very good conditions. But he's currently orienting himself, looking around, checking all systems, making sure all the cameras are running so that everything is indeed recorded. He is going to reload soon, and I'm very certain of it. 180. It's quite a good speed to make the jump and then successfully accelerate all the way up to 400. Dude, I can 1000% relate to what kind of pulse he's having right now. My pulse is rising too. All right, now it's loading through, 220, 30. Dude, how quickly that happens. 300 now. An automobile. 350. Then 360, and now we have reached 370. Introducing here a second automobile, increasing now to 390. It's a slight incline, even though I don't speak or understand Czech. It's likely they might have said to each other, listen, it's starting to get a bit challenging, probably around 394. We're currently at 398 now. Man, it's really intense. Man, it's really intense. Let's head back a bit. So 200, he navigated through the curve, and now he's charging straight through it. 250, 260, 280, 300. Switching over to the left lane. He's overtaking a car, going 340, now 350, then up to 360, 370, speeding at 380, past another car, now 390. The bridge is approaching and it seems to be slightly uphill, at least that's what I'd conclude. 400. Man, oh man, the way those lines fly, right? Holy moly. He overtook two cars to go from 200 to 400. He overtook two cars. Two. So it's truly not four, as I had been showing, but just two. That's incredibly surprising and almost amazing. It was perfectly prepared. He carefully thought of and selected the perfect day, and then he followed through with it. Maybe he'd been there before and realized, no, too many cars. On that day, he really managed it. He's at 400. Not sure what they're saying. Either he said we have 400, the co-driver, or himself. I don't even know if there are two of them in there. But they're saying something. Probably they've mentioned it's getting a bit tough now because it's going uphill. Or they are celebrating the 400. The first time 400, man, that's just magical. We've been working on it for years, you know that. We drove there in the Mercedes, and then it started catching fire and so on. We are now, or we will now make another attempt at grip to break the 400. And frankly, that's really the reason why I came up with the idea to watch this video now and show it to all of you. Because of course it was somehow 6 months ago when everyone was talking about it. But it's just a fresh topic for me again now, because soon I will, next week. Next weekend I'm expected to drive 400 kilometers. And that's precisely why I'm watching this video right now. Also, just to get a feel for it, usually I don't like to prepare. I don't want to get any impressions. I don't want to preempt anything, you know. I want to experience that all by myself, just really and authentically. But I have to watch this video once, you know, because it might also come up on grip that the colleague performed this on the highway. We're definitely not going to conduct it there. The question is, would you do that on the highway? The question is, would I do that on the highway? I'll be honest with you, yes, I'd do it on the highway. Because why not? It's allowed, you know? Let's go back to 350 again now. So how about we just let it play out now until the very end? Because honestly, I've been going on and on with my talking, geez. Dude. So 330. 350. He takes the lane right between the wheels, which is smart because if a gust of wind comes, I mean, there are trees on both sides, it won't be that windy. I believe he scouted that highway thoroughly. He really checked it because there are many highways in Germany where you could theoretically drive like that. But it's simply period. The conditions are absolutely ideal. It's a straight road lined with trees on both sides. And he's taking the middle lane. If a gust of wind comes, then he has room to the left and he has room to the right. An impressive amount indeed. And he simply opted not to take the left lane because at a speed of 350, a lane is already incredibly narrow. That's just how it is. It's getting damn tight. So come on, let's enjoy it once. 93rd man, it's like a dream to drive at such high speed. Truly amazing and surreal with the speed they achieve. This exhilarating experience ignites incredible excitement, thrilling beyond compare. Boy, 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 that means 400. Translation by me, well done, everything's running. 408, 409, 410. There are 2 more cars coming, far right lane. Also, if you often, well, I wanted to just let it play, but I'm just saying this up front because the discussions are about whether it's too dangerous, whether it's reckless. Could this be life-threatening? Yes, it definitely and undoubtedly is life-threatening, of course. Absolutely, it's life-threatening. One must say it very clearly. However, this guy did absolutely everything imaginable. He probably had new covers custom made for $25,000 on his Bugatti. He picked the route, he picked the time, and he probably drove it once before and would have likely cancelled if there was too much traffic. And yes, this Bugatti Chiron is made to go over 400. And that's why you can do it with this car, because many German, international, and so on engineers have trained this car to do that. That this car can do it. And they have very often driven 400 on VW's own test track in Error Lesson. And in between, we drove on banked curves and this and that and checked that this car can handle it. And numerous engineers at Bugatti and VW worked hard to ensure that it could perform those tasks safely and that it's not dangerous. And that it doesn't suddenly get a piston seizure. South. You can do it, but it's very risky. And he really does it quite exceptionally well, I think. And if you often drive at 300, then if you're intelligent, smart, and genuinely experienced, you have the ability to read other drivers. And you can see whether they're moving over or not. And even if he had misread the situation, he wouldn't have shifted to the left lane. Instead, he would have simply transitioned to the middle lane. He moves over to the left to keep everything safe. I've interrupted again. Shall we start at 400? This is so awesome. We're in the middle of the video now. At 395. And now it takes half of the video until he reaches 417. So we're starting at 400. That's just an absolute damn amazing dream. Nanutapattu. 2 cars, nice distance. 414. Speed bump, you can really see how the car is working. Another car. Van on the right lane, everyone is on the right lane. Fell back again to 400, now at 399. He took a little bit off there too. Sebexibon. 411, 412. Literally and absolutely every single thing entirely and thoroughly in the right lane. That's 413, 414, 15, 16. 417. 417 and now it's going under. They air brake. Mister has just opened it up again and I'm totally freaking out. Alright, so here we see, this is probably the debrief. And there we see the yellow Porsche. Was the yellow Porsche serving as a dedicated camera car, or was it merely a support vehicle used to observe and ensure that the road was clear? I can imagine that very well. So the team is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. Honestly, I haven't seen the Huracan, but that's an Aventador. A Bentley. Lamborghini, Bugatti, and Porsche. Okay, are they praying again or what? Oh, there were a few more guys here. Ah, and now comes the grip video. The man drove 417, he fulfilled a dream. Not only did he fulfill the dream of owning such a remarkable car, but he is also among the rare individuals who have the privilege to drive it at full speed on the public roads. And I have to honestly admit, I find that really awesome and super exciting. That's genuinely my opinion regarding this video. Everyone was up in arms, I don't know, from the Bild newspaper to everyone else. Everyone was really upset and kept saying, how is it even possible to do something like that? But to be completely honest, from my perspective, yes, this remarkable car was built by incredibly intelligent and talented girls and boys working at the Volkswagen Group, particularly within Bugatti. Was this incredible car conceived, meticulously developed, rigorously tested, and refined down to every intricate detail? Because you can't sell a car in Germany that goes that fast without being able to do that. So now I'll read an article to you. Actually, let's take a look at how the survey results have turned out. So, survey result, would you drive 300 on the highway? 76% of people confidently say absolutely, dude, no doubt about it at all. But 24% are already of the opinion that it's simply way too dangerous to even consider. That's pretty crazy, and it will most likely spark some intense discussions down in the comment section if I just casually mention that I think it's absolutely awesome. Because 24% say 300 is already considered too dangerous. I truly wouldn't have thought so, because you have to consider looking at my profile. There are both girls and boys, and it mentions it once again. My social media profile consists of girls and guys who really have a passion for cars, yet already 24% are saying that 300 is just too much for them. Curious to see what happens at 400. Do you dare 400 kilometers per hour? 31% definitely say yes. And 69% say that's really too much. Honestly, that does surprise me quite a bit. I find that really quite unbelievable. 69%, there it is. That's quite a significant result. 69% say 400 is too dangerous for them. All right, so now I'm kind of a different Klausi. Let's just enthusiastically say I drive 300 miles every single day. Not every day, but about once a week or so, it does happen. You really start to get used to, in a certain way, driving 300 miles. That's why. Okay, yeah, okay. Well, I perceive it differently. Because I'm accustomed to it, and the colleague here surely hasn't driven 300, 350, or even faster for the very first time. This surely won't have been his first time experiencing that. Then I would suggest we take a quick look at this video where this lawyer presents what he thinks about it. You've heard my opinion now. Anyone who has obtained a driver's license might already be familiar with the speed limit of 130 on German highways. That's the advised speed limit you should aim to stick to. However, a wealthy billionaire from the Czech Republic humorously mentioned that 130 kilometers per hour is just peanuts. If you really don't have a speed limit in Germany, then why don't we just go ahead and give it a try? I find the tone. This, oh, if you're already, he mimics it like that. I think that's already a tendency. That's not neutral. And a lawyer should actually be neutral, I think, right? Well, okay. A judge has to be even more neutral. A lawyer doesn't have to be. But this lawyer is definitely against the colleague. He is definitely behaving that way. Made a passer. Here you can see him with his Bugatti Chiron speeding quite fast down our streets. Yes, so on the right, it's showing 350, 360, 370, and that really is just a typical German car.
Kommentiert ein bisschen anders als ich, ne?
That's cool. That's the direction of direction of direction. And you can already see the different attitudes in the reactions. Look, 360, and it's just a regular highway. Yeah, what else could it possibly be? An abnormal one? That's not a thing. Autobahn, I've gone ahead and positioned myself in the middle here. I'm already starting to feel a bit dizzy, and cars keep appearing on the right-hand side every now and then. It's early yet, visibility's okay, but they just got the 4. Visibility isn't all that bad. The view is absolutely perfect. as if he's acting like the lawyer representing the others, as if he were against Radim. But why at all? Why is he taking sides? All right, well, I take sides too, right? Okay. Should he also... Okay, 110 things on it, then we have 2 more in the far right lane. Fortunately, there's no one right now in the middle lane. And yeah, you shouldn't even imagine what if someone suddenly cuts across here. I think someone is overtaking in the middle lane again. You can't really see it clearly from here. The whole situation continues all the way up to 400. So he's genuinely trying to turn it into something dangerous, trying to blow it out of proportion. I said at the beginning, this is dangerous, no question about it. However, he's just making an effort to spruce it up a little. And the person who's behind the wheel of this car, whom I also want to introduce to you, actually comes across as quite unassuming and inconspicuous at first glance. Yeah, what do you think he actually looks like? How do you suppose he might appear to you? And that's the question, of course, if we have a highway where initially there's no speed limit at all. Can't I drive at 417 then? And Passer himself states in the video description that upholding safety is always his #1 priority, and that he specifically chooses to travel the route exclusively when there's clear visibility. But is it truly allowed to drive at such incredibly high speeds? Well, perhaps you are familiar with this particular sign right here, and that's what it signifies. This is surely our all-time favorite sign, my dear Christian. We're quite familiar with this sign. It indicates that all speed limits are removed and all overtaking bans are also lifted without any exceptions. This is the traffic sign number 282. Yes, it's sign number 282. So I'll really make an effort to keep that in mind. As it's taught in driving school, the recommended speed is 130 kilometers per hour. This guideline of 130 actually dates back to 1978, when they introduced regulations about a general recommended speed on highways and roads of a similar nature. Streets, yeah, but in 1978, if you made 130, you were already one of the top 10,000, I'd say. No nonsense, but well, that's period. Yes, from 1978. So adapted to the safety of the vehicles and adapted to the capabilities of the vehicles, you'd seriously have to set the recommended speed now to 160. 180 would still be okay with me, but 160 would really seem quite fair if they were to change it. It was just pointed out that, as a good practice, you should generally maintain 130 and make a strong effort not to exceed 130. So here, not faster than 130. Yeah, got it, I saw that. So one might wonder, well, really fast, what exactly does that imply? To begin with, it means that if you do drive faster, there's no fine or legal consequence. Not initially, however, if there's an accident. Which of course we didn't do. At least the Bugatti drivers certainly didn't do that. And indeed, there is a decision by the Higher Regional Court of Koblenz where someone was caught driving at a speed of 200. The court clearly stated that any driver traveling at such a high speed forfeits any leeway or opportunity to effectively avoid an accident, thus contributing significantly to the creation of a highly dangerous situation on the road. Good, I understand. I don't know the accident, I know that, right? But of course, if you're driving with 200 somewhere where there are 3 billion cars, then you have no room for error, or very little. And that would have been the case here because he was convicted. So the guy who was speeding at 200, he was convicted. And Radim, on the other hand, was not convicted. And it was surely the right call, as we might discover later on. But I truly believe it's completely justified. I've been asked a lot, Matthias, what do you think about it? Can it be done or not? I'm very clear on this. Yes, you can definitely do that because it is allowed. It's legally permitted, and the diligent Radim has done everything to ensure that the whole process is safe and secure. That's why everything is perfectly fine. He merely drove 200 after, he always tends to overstate things and paints a dramatic picture on the wall. Yeah, he just went 200. However, it really depends on the traffic situation, dear Christian. I know that he, of course, wants to get clicks and wants to make the video particularly exciting, waiting until the very end to draw his conclusion. But he's artificially blowing it up a bit beforehand because he could dismiss all of this already. Bear the accident cost all by themselves, but anyone who can afford a 9 million Euro sports car. 9 million? All right, just hang on for a little bit longer. Honestly, I'm just trying to fully grasp this entire situation right now. New price. Chiron ... A Google search. 3.8 million. That's the first hit. How long did that take? 3 seconds. How does he come up with 9 million? Whether he breaks something, or maybe he can pay it out of his own pocket. And with a leased car you're driving as an average consumer, or if it's a rental car, it gets more complicated if you're going over 130 kilometers per hour and then have an accident. Then it could actually be that you might end up being jointly liable. So I must honestly admit, now it's getting interesting because he's now turning this towards the average consumer. And I find that incredibly fascinating and interesting because it's definitely the case that if you put yourself in these speed zones, you might end up with partial liability, or the insurance could refuse to cover costs and so on and so forth. And you can also face criminal prosecution, of course, when something happens. And in that situation, you must ensure, okay, the conditions need to be right and nothing should occur. And that's exactly what Radom did. A partial fault if you're over 130, crucial to know since you think it's just a suggested speed. No, there is a specific liability shift. You're partly responsible, partly guilty. In an accident, it's crucial to know that proof responsibility is with you, the speeding driver. That means you have to, exactly, you yourself have to prove that you didn't do it or that it was actually safe. What Radim is doing with his video, by the way, which he uploaded, the prosecution investigated and they didn't even question Radim because when they watched the video, they saw there was nothing at all. There was nothing. We don't even need to call the good Radim. He can continue doing his business or keep driving 417 on the German Autobahn because it's damn well allowed. And you can see from that how the press, the newspapers, television, and everyone reporting online, how much they exaggerate to generate clicks, to boost sales, and so on and so forth. Fair enough, I am doing that right now too, but when this was a hot topic, I truly thought it was overblown because honestly, people, just watch the video and you'll see what I mean. That nothing happened and that everything was safe because there was no one in the middle lane, Christian. What could have potentially happened if you had been driving at a reasonable speed? So if our Bugatti is suddenly moving at 410 and an accident occurs, then this Bugatti must provide evidence that the accident would also have happened if he had been driving 130. And there was an example, the Higher Regional Court of Koblenz in March 2011. On the highway with no speed limit, exactly like the situation here, a driver is traveling at a speed of 200. From the far right side, precisely where the car is driving now, another driver got onto the merging lane, then moved across the middle lane and immediately switched over to the overtaking lane. So it's covering all the lanes. I think it was just 2 lanes. So a merge lane, that's a gigantic difference. That's the thing, I just don't understand it. There's a huge distinction whether it's 2 lanes or 3 lanes. Radom and I, we certainly would have never attempted that if it had been just a 2-lane highway. I understand this, so that's not a comparison. You're comparing apples to oranges. Of course, that's happened to everyone who's gone over 200, when someone pulled out from the acceleration lane onto the left lane. Logical, but no one does that on such a highway, because it has 3 lanes, and immediately into the fast lane. And that led to an accident. And now, of course, the one who came from the far right and had just merged, he, of course, committed a violation. He got a traffic violation because you're not allowed to just merge all the way across from the entry lane. Of course, that's self-evident. However, the Higher Regional Court of Koblenz has stated that anyone driving at such speeds, like here, for example, the Bugatti, or indeed at 200 kilometers per hour, now he's realized that it's somehow cool and kind of funny. I do think Christian would have liked to join us too. When he watched the end, he gave a brief smile. So somehow he does have feelings about it. Exhibited the behavior and ultimately covered 40% of the damage. Nearly 50-50 because he endangered the traffic. It's quite logical too. You simply cannot drive in such a reckless manner on a 2-lane highway. You just always have to be ready. And when you see an on-ramp coming, you have to slow down because as an experienced driver, you know something could happen. Any unpredictable situation can arise, and on a 2-lane highway, it's really not feasible at all. That really doesn't work well on a 2-lane road. On a 2-lane highway, it's essential to adhere to the recommended speed. That would definitely be a good idea. Traffic regulations, whoever operates a vehicle may only drive at a speed where the vehicle constantly mastered. And of course, the question is, can you master over 400? OLG Koblenz says 200, over 200 you can't constantly control anymore. He's comparing apples to oranges as 200 kilometers per hour were under different traffic. That's certainly a legitimate question, whether I still have full control of my vehicle at 400 kilometers per hour. Considering the current traffic situation, I confidently say yes, as I mentioned earlier, because this car is equipped with brakes that are truly remarkable and extraordinary. They're designed for speeds over 400 kilometers per hour because really, that's what the car is made for. The road was completely dry and clear and there was practically no traffic whatsoever. Just almost no traffic. Not, as you say, Christian, every now and then someone in the middle lane. It was only occasionally someone in the right lane. In those 4 minutes, he had his vehicle fully under control at all times. Not mastering. So, in that sense, you really have to say that at speeds over 400, you're definitely violating paragraph 3 of the road traffic regulations. No, should. I do a video with Christian sometime. Just imagine, someone in the middle lane swerves over, even if they're only going 150, how quickly you'd have to brake. And I also got myself a braking distance calculator with 417 on it. He's already prepared, he's already thought of a few things. Slowing down necessitates a stopping distance of approximately 1.8 kilometers, or what's termed the braking distance here. So it's quite evident that reaction distance is 125 meters. Pretty wild, huh? 125 meters, or do you drive incident-free? Until you essentially press the brakes, or rather until you begin pressing down on the brakes. Stopping distance 1000, so it's clear that such a car has very good brakes and it's certainly not 1.8 kilometers. And you don't have to come to a full stop, but you get the idea. Exactly. But. And that's really something I'd somewhat hold against him. I get that. He calculates it officially, which is correct, but he doesn't need to brake to 0. Yes. And he really has a very, very wide field of view. So when you see that, yeah, there was no ramp. So there was one somewhere, but he saw that no one was coming, and if there's no traffic, then the person merging theoretically has no reason to pull out at all. South. Calculating braking distances is great, and 1,800 meters of braking, that sounds really, really good. I'm very, very sure that would be much, much shorter. So from 100 to 0 in such a Chiron, I'd say it's like 30 meters. Yeah, 30. From 200, it's probably around 90 or 100 meters or something like that. I have no idea. I'm really completely fishing in the carp pond here. Absolutely no idea about it, but I'd say if you want to go from 400 to 200, you can manage that in a few hundred meters. And if you can see for about 3 kilometers, you'll be able to brake in time. That is precisely why I'm absolutely sure that he had complete control over his vehicle. Don't you have even a kilometer when someone just cuts in front of you, and even if they make a mistake, then you have to... Yeah, well, someone would actually need to be there first to come over and then just press the brakes right there. Now that I've subscribed, it's tough from the braking system's view, and paragraph 3 of the Road Traffic Act, which I showed you, is called an abstract danger offense. This means that there doesn't need to be any specific danger in order for it to be penalized, allowing penalties to be imposed even without an immediate threat. Therefore, the authorities could potentially say, indeed, he wasn't properly in control of the vehicle. However, that's difficult because if he couldn't master it, the authorities would have to prove. However, there's something else to consider. I picked out the 315C that our transport minister, they just pull out all the stops. South. He's probably a good lawyer. I'm just guessing. I don't want to advertise for him and I don't know him. He truly has the potential to effectively tackle this issue if he sincerely wishes to fully engage with the broader Czech perspective. Endangerment of road traffic. I thought, anyone who recklessly and seriously breaches traffic rules by overtaking wrongly or driving incorrectly during overtaking, one might say.
Nein, könnte man nicht sagen. Warum? Hat nicht falsch überholt. Hat richtig überholt.
Areas. Wasn't it also a confusing area? Unclear? Number. Yes, maybe. We'll listen to the lawyer video. It's way cooler than what you said. When I'm driving quickly, everything becomes unclear. Therefore, speed inherently reduces clarity and makes it much harder to see everything properly. Maybe, I swear, Christian, it never went over 200, is clear. And maybe even, Yeah, that's a bit sensationalist from me, right? But honestly, I'm starting to get worked up. I'm getting really hot. And maybe 315D forbidden power will even come into play. No race took place, no other vehicles were around. The Porsche was there, but that was it. His colleague, but he was going approximately 130. Indeed, that wasn't a race, and a race who in traffic. Operates as a motor vehicle driver with an improperly adjusted speed, moving recklessly and regressively to achieve the highest possible speed. All right, just a minute. So if someone happens to operate a motor vehicle on the road at a speed that is not suitably and properly adjusted, no need to read further on, the speed was properly adjusted. It makes me smile indeed. However, we certainly know today that he wasn't actually convicted. He has been acquitted because none of the accusations turned out to be true. The speed was properly adjusted to the prevailing conditions at the time, and not grossly traffic violating either, because driving at 400 is allowed in Germany, and not reckless either. He didn't blink at anyone, he didn't lift anyone, nothing at all, to achieve the highest possible speed. So everything that was before, this relates to maximum speed. He aimed to achieve the highest speed possible, but avoided speeding, breaking traffic laws, or behaving recklessly. So ciao. The real question here is whether he was indeed reckless, yes, and being grossly negligent. That's genuinely harder to assess. But you see, there are a handful of norms we could potentially tackle and try to address, although to be perfectly honest, there really aren't all that many options available. Our roads are open, and around these parts you have the complete liberty to drive as fast as you wish. On the other hand, in my opinion, there were at least as many drivers still on the road very early in the morning who could have been endangered as well, and he wouldn't have been able to brake anymore. If they had been dragged like that, dude, you should have figured the kilometers between those cars. If he's going, I don't know, for 10, 20 seconds at 400 kilometers per hour, that's 3 kilometers, and then the next car came. For 3 kilometers, no cars felt like it. Maybe just 1 kilometer doesn't matter, but that's just a plain fact. Dude, I believe I really need to make a video with him. All right, so we've seen, Christian, the reaction to this is legally broken down again in detail. We now know, as the video is older and he didn't know then, that he'd be acquitted. We know today that Good Radim was acquitted, and rightly so, because that's how it is in Germany. And that's why he was acquitted, so no more questions. Now I'm very curious how next week's 400 drive will go. We're doing it opposite of Christian now, don't subscribe here. You'll miss out on future videos, which is likely for the best. Take good care. I'm interested in your opinion as well. I've already asked a bit here on my phone. 400 is too fast for you, and I understand that. 69%, let's look into it. So 77% go 300. 23% find that too fast. 69% is too much. 400 is too much. Wow. 30% still say definitely. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye, take care. Yours, Matzi. Ciao.